The anointed ones, welcome. Some individuals don't want the remedy for the ailment that is jealousy. Humans have a peculiar tendency to watch you rise, appreciate your radiance from a distance, and then all of a sudden something changes. Compliments become murmurs, admiration becomes jealousy, and before you know it, a collection of envious people has gathered and is out to bring you down. The intriguing part, however, is that they have never met someone like you. They made a grave mistake by assuming you were simply another target, someone they could intimidate into compliance. They just set themselves up for failure by coming for you, but they were unaware of this. Just by thinking about you, envious individuals are actually worrying themselves to death, since research indicates that jealousy raises cortisol, the stress hormone. Just think about that. They're sleeping less because of you, while you're out here living your life. Furthermore, this isn't your average jealousy, let's face it. Oh no, this is the kind of envy that is equivalent to an Olympic level, a full-time job, and a secret meeting. They believe they were in control, but now that they have chosen the wrong victim, their small kingdom of hatred is collapsing. What then is causing them to fall apart? What is causing their jealousy to backfire so severely? Why are you the one thing they can't beat, beyond everything else? Let's dissect it. First of all, you show that their power is a myth. The majority of members of envious organizations function under the common delusion that their authority is genuine. Controlling who is accepted, who is disregarded, who advances, and who falls is how they flourish. The foundation of their power, however, is perception rather than intellect, ability, or real influence. By influencing how others see them and how others perceive themselves, they exert power over individuals. However, when you enter the picture, their whole system abruptly begins to collapse. You reveal their authority for what it is, a delusion, not just a challenge. Because you move with substance which they can't mimic, while they're fixated on looks. You're not asking for their approval. You're not playing their social games, and above all, you're not scared of them. And that's what breaks it all. Only when they are feared, respected, or at the very least cooperated with, do they have any power. But their whole world begins to fall apart when you stand there, uninterested and undisturbed. It consumes them. How do you not feel intimidated? Why do you not bend? How can you maintain your position with such ease? They begin to discover something terrible while they're busy planning and scheming. You don't need the audience, but they do. To feel significant, they want the approval of their group, yet being great doesn't require the consent of anybody. They despise you because they question their purported authority. If someone like you can succeed without abiding by their rules, the others around them are now beginning to realize that it was never genuine in the first place. Others are seeing how their strategies fail to work on you and questioning if they ever needed to work on them as well. The magic is dissolving and the terror is waning. Not because you fight them, but because you demonstrated that they were never powerful in the first place. Your very presence weakens them. Second, they are unable to avoid you because you are a mirror. Those who are jealous avoid introspection at all costs. Their whole identity is based on hiding their imperfections, avoiding their own fears, and feigning confidence that they lack. By manipulating how other people see them, fabricating stories, engaging in mind games, and associating with individuals who won't challenge them, they divert their attention. You, on the other hand, make people look at themselves, which they really don't want to see, without even trying. They are unable to avoid you because you are a mirror. They detest the way that everything about you reflects back to them. Your self-assurance draws attention to their self-doubt. Your accomplishments reveal their lack of development, and your genuineness serves as a reminder of how much they have been pretending. It becomes more clear why they feel the need to undermine you the more they attempt to do so. They can't deny the fact that you set off a deep-seated unease and uncertainty that they can't get rid of. They tell themselves that you're conceited, fortunate, and overrated. But whatever excuse they make, it doesn't alter the reality. Their envy is entirely related to the issues they won't face in themselves and has nothing to do with you. The reason they are so fixated on you isn't because you did anything to them, but rather because your very existence compels them to face problems they have been avoiding for years. What's the worst? They pay less attention to themselves the more they are focused on you. They are only caught in a vicious circle of resentment, watching you prosper as they further entrench themselves in their own annoyance. They are not developing, expanding, or creating anything genuine. They believe that assaulting you would cheer them up, but it just served to highlight their true lack of self-worth. You expose them to themselves as well as to others, and they will never be able to prevail in that fight. Third, you are not the typical individual for whom their strategies were designed. People that are jealous use a predictable set of strategies. They've worked on other folks and utilized them before. When necessary, they play the victim, create drama, influence views, and propagate stories. They are skilled at manipulating those who are weak, insecure, or in need of social acceptance. They believe it to be infallible because they have done it so often. Then you come along, and all of a sudden, everything they relied on begins to fall apart. You don't respond as they anticipate. You don't try to win their favor. They go into total frenzy because you don't give in to their demands. Because that's what most people do. They expected you to plead, lash out, and prove yourself. They have always kept power in this manner. However, you don't even recognize the game. You don't follow their rules, and their whole plan falls apart without your involvement. They are now rushing and intensifying their strategies, but it is just hurting them, since people are beginning to realize that they are the issue and not you. They thought you would give in to their pressure, but their attempts just serve to show how determined they are to defeat you. Their typical tactics, such as intimidation, rumor, and exclusion, are not working. It becomes more clear that they, not you, are the ones who lack confidence as they press. The worst part is that they are unable to adjust. Controlling the typical person, those who want to fit in, fear rejection, and want validation, is the foundation of their whole strategy. You're not average, however. They have no impact on you since you don't move like the others, and you're steadfast in your identity. They panic, get careless, and begin exposing themselves in their frantic efforts to ruin you because they don't know what to do with someone they can't control. The people who formerly supported them begin to doubt everything, and suddenly the authority they believed they had evaporates. Because in the end, it was merely a ruse that only worked on the wrong people. It was never power at all. Fourth, you misrepresent their social capital. They are now becoming less valuable. People who are jealous behave like dishonest stockbrokers in a manipulated market. They determine who is important, who is not, and who merits notice. Artificial scarcity is the foundation of their whole system, which persuades individuals that they alone can provide prosperity, acceptability, and prestige. They ensure that the worth of anybody who poses a danger to them remains low by pulling others down in order to elevate themselves. However, as soon as you become involved, their whole economy collapses. You don't engage in status gaming. Their contrived importance, hollow popularity, and phony friendships are not your money. You work on substance instead. You provide genuine results, genuine skill, and genuine confidence. The issue for them is that when anything genuine shows up in a market crowded with fakes, it reveals the true value of the fakes. People are now beginning to take notice. Those who previously subscribed to the envious group's definition of value are now aware that they have been overspending on inferior products. They realize that the envious group's offerings, fake superiority, clout chasing, and gossip have no true value. You're succeeding out here without their consent in the meanwhile, demonstrating that their validation was never required in the first place. They are afraid of it because they will lose all power if people cease trusting in their money. In order to prevent people from beginning to see you as the genuine thing, they panic and attempt to devalue you by circulating rumors, fabricating stories, and doing whatever other action they can. However, it's too late. People's perspectives have already been altered by you. They are now questioned by those who formerly feared them. Now, those who formerly need their approval turn elsewhere. Suddenly, their whole system falls apart. Because those who base their power on delusions inevitably lose in a world where true worth prevails. Fifth, you demonstrate to the outsiders that there is an alternative. Those who are jealous not only want control, they rely on it. Making people think that their method is the only way is the foundation of their whole power. They establish the unwritten norms, such as who to obey, what to believe, and how to behave. People voluntarily remain in the invisible prison they build because they believe there is no other choice. Then you appear, and without even attempting, you shatter that illusion. You move in a unique way. You succeed even if you don't try to get their praise. People still respect you even if you don't live up to their expectations. You're winning even if you don't play their game. And that's a big issue for them because it begs the question, what does it say about your so-called power if you can succeed without following their rules? Those who were formerly terrified by them begin to pay attention. They realize that you are not part of the system and are not subject to the same manipulation and fear that formerly governed them. They then begin to pose risky queries, such as, what if I also don't need their approval? What if I'm not required to comply? What if I've been caught up in a phony hierarchy all along? The envious group loses everything at that point, since they were able to convince others of their power, rather than using it to gain control. When people lose faith in it, their whole hold on power breaks down. In an attempt to isolate you, discredit you, or frighten others back into obedience, they panic and step up their efforts. However, the harm has already been done. The notion that there is another way, your way, has already been sown. People are unable to unsee it once they have seen it. They've lost control, not just over you, but over everyone who now understands they never needed them in the first place, which is exactly what they dreaded most. Sixth, they misjudged your fortitude, and it's coming back to haunt them. The only strategy used by jealous individuals is to break you. That's their whole plan. They try everything on you, including manipulation, exclusion, and rumors, expecting you to crumble under the strain, which is often the case. The majority of individuals either give in, look for acceptance, or discreetly vanish. The envious clique keeps its hold on power in this way. Before you, they've tried this strategy, and it's always worked. From the beginning, they underestimated you. They expected you to respond similarly to everyone else, scared, anxious to disprove them, and frantic to repair your image. However, none of it was done by you. You didn't even flinch, you didn't flee, and you didn't plead. At that point, they saw they had a serious issue since you adapted rather than broke. You expanded instead of shrinking. Each of their attacks on you honed you rather than made you weaker. You became stronger every time someone tried to take you down. They thought you would be brittle, yet you proved to be unbreakable. They are now plagued by their own failure. They are now the ones that are obsessed with you, even if they believed they were in charge. They can't comprehend how you're still alive and well, so you dwell in their minds for free. When they unleashed their greatest shots at you, you ascended rather than merely survived. They are the ones that are under siege now. Their strategies failed. Their self-confidence is eroding, and those who once supported them are beginning to doubt everything. They believed they had the upper hand going into this conflict, but now they're facing the harsh reality that they chose a fight they would never win. Seventh, they are unable to comprehend how you are succeeding without engaging in unethical behavior. People who are jealous don't think that genuine skill, diligence, or sincerity exist. They think that strategies are important. They believe that the only way to succeed is to plot, deceive, and backstab their way to the top. They cheat, fabricate stories, and eliminate everyone they perceive to be a danger. They don't compete properly. And since you're succeeding without using their strategies, that's why you make them feel so uneasy. To advance, you don't deceive, coerce, or walk on others. You are sincere, talented, and motivated. Even though you follow moral principles, you manage to win. And they are deeply shaken by that fact alone. They are unable to comprehend it. Only the most vicious people survive in their environment, where success is a filthy game. Here you are, however, demonstrating that they have been mistaken all along. You're revealing what they've been avoiding for years. Maybe lying isn't necessary to succeed. Perhaps they were never as strong as they believed. Perhaps they were just cowards who were too scared to make the proper effort. It is infuriating to realize that if you can win without using dishonest tactics, what does that say about them? That none of the dubious transactions, treacherous betrayals, and phony friendships were required. They were, in reality, weak individuals who depended on deception because they lacked the self-confidence to achieve in any other manner. They were never talented, strong, or unique. And now, as it becomes more clear that their whole way of life was based on deception, their world is falling apart. Eighth, they have devoted more time to despising you than to bettering themselves. People who are jealous are unaware of the trap they have put themselves in. In reality, they're just holding themselves back, even if they believe they're pulling you down. You've been working hard while they've been planning, chatting, conspiring, and obsessing about you. You've been leveling up, developing, and maturing, and now there's no denying the distance between you and them. They believed that their hatred would slow you down, but it just made you go further. You used every bit of criticism they hurled at you as fuel. Every effort to undermine you only sharpened you. They thought you would fail, but you've created something so strong that their views are no longer even relevant. However, they've been stranded. They have been focused on you while you have been focused on your objectives. That was the worst thing they could have done, since every second they spent detesting you was time they could have used to better themselves. Every minute they spent discussing you was time they might have been using to achieve their own goals. Instead, they wasted that time wishing you would fail, when they might have been building, learning, and growing. They are now experiencing the repercussions. They see they're more behind now, yet they're still in the same spot as when they first began to hate you. When people see you succeeding, making progress, and accomplishing goals they previously believed were unattainable, it dawns on them that they did the same to themselves. They were only delaying their own advancement, even if they believed they were defeating you. And now they're sinking under the weight of their own resentment while you're ascending. The demise they hoped you would experience, they're experiencing it. Number 9, the organization is disintegrating, despite their belief that it would shield them. Envious groups usually believe they are powerful because of their numbers. They think that by uniting, they are impregnable, and that their shared resentment protects them from repercussions. What they never understand, however, is that a hate-based organization can never be really unified. It's really a shaky coalition of insecure individuals who are abusing one another to feel strong, and everything falls apart the instant things don't go their way. They were confident at first. They believed that attacking you would be effective. They thought they would crush you by excluding you, creating stories, or attempting to damage your reputation. But the fractures began to appear when none of it worked, and you continued to win in spite of all they threw at you. They no longer feel strong. Instead, they feel vulnerable. They seem weak because they were unable to knock you down. And weak individuals in poisonous organizations don't last. They are now searching for someone to blame, the same organization that provided them with shelter. And they begin to turn on one another because you aren't disintegrating as they had anticipated. What was once a unified front against you turns into an internal struggle for survival as doubts and murmurs begin to sneak in. Maybe this was your fault. You said this plan would work. Why are we still wasting our time on them? What's worse for them is that they know they can't trust one other since they base their relationships on lies, betrayal, and gossip. They are now speaking behind their backs with the same persons they formerly collaborated with. They are defensive, anxious, and frantic to stay safe from being the next victim. You, in the meantime, you've been so preoccupied with your success to even see their failure. And it's the last nail in the coffin, because you're demonstrating that their infatuation with you was the one thing they ever had in common as they destroy themselves. And now that their purpose for being is disintegrating, all they have left is the disaster they created for themselves. The 10th is that they unknowingly offered you free exposure. People who are jealous believe that by talking about you, they are ruining you, yet they are really helping you. They are keeping you relevant every time they propagate a story, bring up your name in discussion, or attempt to undermine you. Even if their intention was to destroy your reputation, they are keeping it in the public eye and placing you on people's radar. They first believe that their smear campaign would make everyone hostile to you. They think their falsehoods will stick, and that people would follow their story without question. However, people are inherently inquisitive, and the more they hear about someone, the more they want to see them for themselves. And when they do, that's when it all goes wrong. Because when people see you in person, they see that you're not at all what the envious group said. Instead of the monster you were painted as, they see someone who is self-assured, carefree, and prosperous. The envious group now has a dilemma, since they provided you free exposure without achieving their desired result. Even worse for them is when others begin to question why they first were so fixated on you. Why do people speak about you all the time? Why are they making so an effort to undermine you? The true change occurs at that point, when people begin to doubt them rather than believe them. Since their efforts to quiet you just made you more noticeable, the envious gang has now officially lost. Their anger simply made you more fascinating, and they unintentionally enhanced you while attempting to kill you. Your influence became greater as they struggled against you. They are now solely recognized for their hatred of you, not for their own achievements. What's the worst? They spent time pulling you down, but you were soaring higher than they could have ever dreamed. Thus, the person they sought to obliterate is greater than ever.